Coming up on a newscast, early voting for the June 1st local elections and parliamentary by-elections begins. Polling booths are open nationwide from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. until Saturday. President Zelenskyy accused Russia of an obvious policy of genocide. This comes as Moscow's invasion of Ukraine continues. South Korea is one of the forerunners in esports. We take a look at how the nation became a powerhouse in game leagues and in grooming pro gamers. We'll be wrapping up the week well. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Let's begin with our top story. 2 days of early voting begins for the local elections and parliamentary by-elections. So far, turnout surpassed 10% for both. It remains to be seen how the recent presidential election in March will impact the results, with a number of familiar heavyweights running for a post. Lee Kyung-eun starts us off.
Most voters across South Korea receive 7 separate ballot sheets. They will decide on mayors, governors, education superintendents, and leaders of local councils. In some areas where parliamentary by-elections are also taking place, voters will have an 8th decision to make to pick their legislators.
I studied the voting manual over and over at home, so it was not too difficult.
It's always hectic in the morning, but I just want to vote for my pick as early as possible.
Some 3,500 polling booths will be open nationwide on Friday and Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The perks of voting early is that you can visit whatever polling station you like regardless of your address. I'm a Seoul resident, but I can still vote in my local elections right here in Suwon, Gyeonggi-do Province. That's thanks to on-site ballot printing system used only for early voting. You show your ID and your specific ballot papers will come out automatically. On election day, however, you must go to your designated polling station. Meanwhile, those infected with COVID-19 can also cast their ballots early. Despite a 7-day mandatory self-quarantine, they can briefly come out on day 2 of early voting, Saturday, from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. They must show proof that they've had PCR tests or rapid antigen tests and make sure not to take public transportation. And following a change in the law in 2019, those aged as young as 18 can vote and will be taking part in local elections for the first time. Some foreign nationals who have held permanent residency for at least 3 years are also eligible to vote. It's less than a month since the new Yoon Suk-yeol administration came to power, and several political heavyweights are running in parliamentary by-elections. All eyes are on whether the early voter turnout will surpass the 20.14% from the last election. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol commented on creating a personnel vetting unit. The conservative leader stressed the inspection job should be separated from the top office, while controversy still remains over giving excessive power to the Justice Ministry. Yoon Jung-min shares with us his remarks.
It isn't the job of the presidential office to dig up people's information. That's President Yoon Suk-yeol on Friday as he defended his administration's proposal to transfer the responsibility of vetting candidates for senior government posts from the now abolished office of the Presidential Secretary for Civil Affairs to a new personnel vetting unit under the Justice Ministry. The South Korean leader was responding to a reporter's question on the latest controversy over the creation of a new organization to take up the task under the Justice Minister.
미국이 그렇게 합니다. 네. 그리고 대통령 비서실에서 정책이나 이런 거 위주로 해야지 어떤 사람에 대한 비위나 이런 정보 캐는 거 있죠? 그거는 안 하는 게 맞아요. 그래서
The new system is modeled after the American system where the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which is under the Justice Department, conducts an initial vetting of candidates and submits a report to the White House. Yoon has been critical of personnel inspection and verification being conducted by the presidential office, saying those duties must be separated from the top office to ensure objectivity.
그래서 내가 민정수석실 없앤 겁니다. 사정은 그냥 사정기관이 알아서 하는 거고 대통령 비서실이 이런 사정의 컨트롤 타워 역할 안 하고 그리고 공식 후보자에 대한 비위나 비위 의혹에 관한 정보 수집 있죠? 그것도 안 합니다.
This is the first time for President Yoon to make any remarks on the issue. Still, the nation remains divided on whether creating a personal vetting unit under the Justice Ministry is appropriate, as some say while such a move may help the presidential office avoid criticisms of closed-door appointments, it may end up giving excessive power to the Justice Ministry. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
President Yoon joined other world leaders in offering condolences to the bereaved families and the American people over the elementary school massacre in Texas. In a message to his American counterpart, the South Korean leader said he was deeply saddened by the tragic news, condemned indiscriminate violence against civilians as unacceptable, and wished all those affected a speedy recovery. Yoon added that his country stands firmly with the American people and President Biden in coping with the grief. A gunman opened fire at an elementary school in Texas on Tuesday, killing 19 students and 2 teachers. The UNSC failed to pass stronger sanctions on North Korea over recent missile launches. As expected, the U.S. resolution was vetoed by China and Russia. The South Korean government expressed deep regret over the move. Lee Ji-yoon has the full story.
North Korea's 2 closest allies said no to a United States-led UN resolution on Thursday. The UN Security Council resolution would have imposed new, tougher sanctions on North Korea for its latest intercontinental ballistic missile launches. But from the 15-member Security Council, just 2, China and Russia, vetoed the motion.
The Council unanimously responded to DPRK provocations with resolutions that impose sanctions and bring collective condemnation to a very real threat to peace and security. Today, 2 permanent members of this council chose to veto rather than act.
The vote comes just a day after North Korea fired 3 missiles following U.S. President Joe Biden's Asia trip. China and Russia have previously delayed action behind closed doors when deciding on North Korea sanctions, but Thursday's veto was the first time they have publicly broken unanimity in the Security Council.
The country concerned should not place one-sided emphasis on the implementation of sanctions alone, but should also work to promote a political solution.
We're convinced that the search for mutually acceptable political diplomatic solutions is the only possible way towards a peaceful solution on the North Korean peninsula.
The South Korean government says it's regrettable that the resolution hasn't been passed. Seoul's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Choi Young-sam pointed out the need for more sanctions to stop North Korea's nuclear tests. Meanwhile, the Center for Strategic and International Studies believes the North could launch missiles on Memorial Day in the U.S. next Monday, having already done so 7 times in the past. Lee Ji-yoon, Arirang News.
The top nuke envoys of Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo are meeting in South Korea next Friday. The trial will discuss the current state of affairs on the peninsula and ways to respond to Pyongyang's recent provocations. The regime test-fired 3 ballistic missiles this week, including 1 suspected ICBM just hours after U.S. President Joe Biden left Asia. There are signs that a nuclear test could be carried out. This will be Kim Gun's first meeting with his American and Japanese counterparts in person since being named chief nuclear negotiator. The nation's daily COVID-19 tally stood at 16,584. That's around 2,000 fewer than Thursday. It marks the lowest number for a Friday since late January. There were 40 more deaths. The number of severely ill, 207. During a meeting on the country's virus measures, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo said the government will encourage doctors to prescribe coronavirus medication for people 60 and older and other high-risk groups on the day they test positive. Japan's prime minister announced the country will start admitting foreign travelers again from June 10th if they're part of a tour group. The ban has been in place since April 2020 due to the pandemic. Only group tours booked through travel agencies will be permitted for the time being. Japan has been letting people in for most non-tourism purposes like business, though. Starting June 1st, it's going to double the limit on inbound travelers per day to 20,000. No more testing or self-isolation required for people arriving from 98 countries, including South Korea, the U.S., and China. Flights will also resume between Gimpo and Haneda airports. With food prices spiking, many are thinking twice before dining in fancy restaurants. Eating at home would be a more attractive option, but one would get cold feet about grocery shopping as well. Ji-young sheds light on how people are dealing with the concerning trend.
With social distancing measures lifted, we might have expected a flood of business at restaurants. But that's not quite happened because of skyrocketing prices.
When dining out, I feel like the same money doesn't go as far. I think prices are up about 10%.
I came out to a local restaurant and ordered 삼겹살 to see how pricey it is. 사장님, 여기 삼겹살 4인분이랑 식사 4개 주세요. Samgyeopsal is pork belly, a cut widely thought of in Korea as affordable. But people are finding that's less true now. 잘 먹었습니다. 얼마예요? 68,000원입니다. 네, 감사합니다. 68,000 won. That's more than $50, and just a year ago, it was much cheaper. According to Statistics Korea, the price of samgyeopsal in a restaurant was up almost 8% in April compared to a year earlier. Consumers are feeling it, and it's rough on restaurant owners too.
The price of everything has gone up, whether imported or domestic. I'm having a hard time running this restaurant.
It's not only samgyeopsal, but the cost of dining out in general, which Statistics Korea says was up 6.6% last month from a year earlier. You could save money eating at home, but not as much as before.
On a trip to the grocery store to make samgyeopsal for a family of 4, I used to spend 100,000 won, but these days it costs me about 130,000.
I went to the store to see for myself and picked up the ingredients I need to make samgyeopsal for 4 people. And sure enough, the same items would have cost much less back in March. It's not only food prices that are squeezing households. Consumers are also paying more at the pumps. Prices of petroleum products in April soared by more than 34% on year. And it's not going to be as transitory as some have expected. Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho said Friday the country's inflation is likely to rise above 5% and stay there for a while. To stabilize runaway prices, the government will announce new measures next week. One expert says the key is to increase supply.
Well, I think the government should concentrate on trying to raise the supply of foodstuffs where they can. So government should perhaps give subsidies to farmers for foodstuffs that they can raise quickly.
Ji-young, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics took up 24% of the global smartphone market. It's the highest in 5 years for April. The Korean tech giant beat Apple's 15% and Xiaomi's 12%. Market analysts at Counterpoint attributed the success to the Galaxy S22 and Galaxy A lines. Samsung has been leading the industry for 3 months straight since February. It rose to the top spot in India last month for the first time since August 2020. In air conditioning, an LG product's been chosen by American consumers as the most reliable small-size window AC. From Consumer Reports, the model earned an excellent rating in predicted reliability, which estimates how likely it'll break down within 5 years, and a very good in owner satisfaction. Russian forces are closing in on several cities in eastern Ukraine. Officials say some of their units may have to pull back. Ukraine is asking for more weapons as President Zelenskyy accuses Moscow of having an obvious policy of genocide. Han Sung-woo has the latest.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has accused Russia of an obvious policy of genocide, especially in the eastern region of Donbass, where there have been mass killings and deportations.
The current offensive by the occupiers in Donbass could make the region uninhabited.
Ukrainian officials acknowledged on Thursday that some of their units may have to fall back, saying Russian forces have recently combined short-range ballistic missiles, multiple launch rocket systems, heavy artillery, and tanks to bombard areas in Luhansk and Donetsk that are still under Ukrainian control. In Kharkiv towards the north, 9 people were reportedly killed on Thursday and 19 others injured from dense shellings. This comes amid reports that hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians have been forcefully and systematically taken to Russia from so-called filtration camps. The aggressions have prompted Ukraine to demand advanced, long-range rocket systems from the United States, which CNN reports the White House is leaning towards sending as part of a larger package of military assistance, which could be announced as soon as next week. Zelenskyy, meanwhile, has expressed his dissatisfaction at divisions within the European Union over imposing more sanctions against Russia and lamented what he called procrastination.
Of course, I'm grateful to those friends who are advocating new sanctions. But where do the people blocking this 6th package get their power from?
The EU is discussing a 6th round of punitive measures, which include an embargo on Russian oil imports. The move requires unanimity, but has faced opposition from Hungary on the grounds its economy would suffer. Zelenskyy's comments came a day after the leader slammed suggestions that Kyiv make territorial concessions for peace, comparing them to attempts to appease Nazi Germany in 1938. 한성우, Arirang News.
The Afghan Taliban are reportedly boosting coal exports to Pakistan and have raised duties on sales to generate more revenue from its mining sector in the absence of foreign funding. According to Reuters, the move comes as global coal prices inch close to record highs after Indonesia's export ban and the Ukraine crisis. The Taliban's finance ministry spokesperson said that coal exports and revenues are higher in the current government compared to the previous one. One Pakistani official told Reuters that Pakistan had increased coal imports from Afghanistan and could be importing up to 500,000 tons per month. Tax on coal exports was also increased to 30% from 20%. This year's International Booker Prize goes to Indian writer Gitanjali Shri and her translator for Tomb of Sand. It's the first Hindi book to win what's considered one of the top honors in the literary world. Cursed Bunny by South Korea's Bora Chung, a strong contender, came up short of winning, but it certainly brought more attention to Korean literature. Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Indian writer Gitanjali Shri and American translator Daisy Rockwell's Tomb of Sand has won the prestigious 2022 International Booker Prize, an award for fiction translated into English. This is the very first Indian language novel to get a prize and the very first novel written in Hindi to even be shortlisted in the 17-year history of the international category.
This is a bolt from the blue, but what a nice one. And I'm still reeling. I never dreamt of the Booker and never thought I could. What a huge recognition. I'm amazed, delighted, honored, and humbled.
Set in the northern India, the book tells the story of an 80-year-old woman's adventure as she tries to start a new chapter of her life after going through depression following the death of her husband. The jury introduced the story as engaging, funny, and utterly original, at the same time as being an urgent and timely protest against the destructive impact of borders and boundaries. It beat 5 other outstanding works, including The Books of Jacob by Polish writer Olga Tokarczuk, who won the 2018 Nobel Prize in Literature, and South Korean writer Bora Chung's Cursed Bunny. Though Chung did not win the prize, her book is widely being recognized as having elevated Korean modern literature, broadening its boundaries by bringing genres of horror, fantasy, and science fiction together.
Bora Chung's disturbing yet eloquently human stories are brought viscerally to life by the startling talent of Anton Her.
Experts agree that Chung being shortlisted will bring more attention to Korean literature, which has already been in the spotlight following South Korean writer Han Gang's 2016 Booker win. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Turning to some MLB action now, the Hyunjin earned his second win of the season as the Toronto Blue Jays beat the Angels 6-3. During 5 innings, the monster lefty allowed 2 runs on 6 hits with 2 strikeouts. He now has 2 wins in the last 2 starts and has lowered his ERA to 5.48. The game garnered increased media and public attention in South Korea as it was the first duel between Ryu and Japanese star Shohei Ohtani, who is the reigning American League MVP. Ohtani gave up 5 runs during 6 innings. At the plate, he drew a walk and got struck out by Ryu. There was a time when playing video games was considered unhealthy and a waste of time. Today, competitive online gaming has become one of the most watched and celebrated events around the world. Korea played a key role in the evolution. Shin Yeon walks us through the history of esports.
South Korea is one of the forerunners in esports. It was one of the first in the world to come up with concepts like game leagues and professional gamers. And it all started around the late 1990s at PC rooms, like the one where I'm at right now. People would gather with their friends to play online games and watch each other. PC room management noticed this trend and started holding tournaments against each other to choose the best gamer in each district. Back then, the most popular game was StarCraft. Decades later, esports has grown exponentially here in Korea. And let's find out how.
The history of esports can be traced back to StarCraft. Released in 1998, this online game instantly made it big. Because Korea had just the right infrastructure, PC rooms. Unlike computers at home, these internet cafes had high-speed internet and top-notch hardware.
StarCraft became a national game. Students would rush to PC rooms after school. Adults would come right after work. Everyone was playing it. Because StarCraft and online games became so popular, South Korean broadcasters decided to televise some offline matches. Nobody had thought about it before. The combination of gaming and broadcasting hit the jackpot. It turned out users enjoyed watching others play because they could relate to them and learn some hacks themselves.
Over the years, new games have been added. The biggest in Korea right now is League of Legends, which holds 2 major global esports tournaments, Mid-Season Invitational and the World Championship. This year's MSI was held in Busan, here in Korea.
I couldn't get tickets to all the matches, so I came to watch just one. But it was disappointing that I couldn't go to all of them. It would have been fun.
I actually went to MSI to see Team T1 play in person. But I also came here to take pictures as if I'm standing up close to my favorite pro gamers.
The domestic esports industry has seen double-digit growth almost every year. The average annual growth rate from 2015 to 2019 was 17.9%. Recognizing the growing fan base in Korea, Riot Games, the developers of League of Legends, held an orchestral performance with some of the country's most renowned musicians playing iconic music from the game.
It's no doubt that Korea is the mecca for esports. There's just so much demand for it. We've seen tickets for this orchestra performance sell like hotcakes since last year. You can sense the excitement as fans dress up as their favorite characters and run out during the intermission to buy merchandise.
Yes, sir. To even have more fun at this event, many fans have dressed up as their favorite game characters. 혹시 오늘 어떤 캐릭터로 오셨을까요?
정령용 애쉬 코스프레 했어요. 저는 모르가나 코스프레 했습니다. 리그 오브 레전드의 케이틀린이라는 캐릭터 있어요. 전 리그 오브 레전드의 전투토끼 미포 한 것 같습니다.
With esports attracting more views than many conventional sports, it has been selected as an official medal sport at the 19th Asian Games for the first time ever. Team South Korea is trying its best to live up to the reputation of the country being the home of esports. Shin Yeon, Arirang News.
Much warmer temperatures are on the cards for this weekend. Expect conditions to be close to what we normally see in mid-July. The capital region will see maximum temperatures of 29 degrees Celsius for this entire weekend. On Sunday, southern parts of the country are forecast to see light showers of 5 millimeters. In the meantime, dry weather advisories are issued for inland regions of Gyeongsang-do provinces. The coastlines even have gusty offshore winds in the forecast as well. Under such conditions of dry air and gusty winds, anything that catches on fire has the potential to spread quickly. Please take extra precautions. Sunny conditions will dominate for the morning hours. Seoul and Gwangju will start off at 16 degrees Celsius. And daytime temperatures will rise significantly, causing wide temperature gaps. Seoul and Busan will get up to 29 degrees, Chuncheon 30, Gwangju will reach 31 degrees Celsius. On Monday, the entire nation will be under rainy spells, and with the cold showers, scorching conditions will take a brief respite from the beginning of next week. It's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Time to wrap things up. As always, thank you for staying with us.